Okay, first and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rakakmadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Now, today we'll be covering Daniel chapter 11, verses 15 through 17. Now, the previous verses, mainly 13 and 14, they're dealing with how Antiochus the Great returns to go to war with Ptolemy V, because when during that Fourth Syrian War between Antiochus III and Ptolemy IV, Philopator, Antiochus was defeated and he basically retreated. But now, he's returning to go to war with Ptolemy V, Ptolemy IV's son. So, verse 15. So the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities, and the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. So, so the king of the south shall come, King Salakia. So the king of the north shall come, which is, Antiochus III the Great. He is the king of the north at this time. And cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities. Now, looking at the map, when Antiochus made his return, he started conquering along down this right side here, where we see where you have Damascus, Sidon, Tyre, Jerusalem, Gaza, and we see that, Jerusalem and Israel, we see that Israel is here as well. But when he made his return, he started conquering along this area, making his way down to Egypt. And the arms of the south shall not withstand. No one was able to stop or defend against Antiochus III, because remember, when he came back, not only did he do so with a larger army, when he retreated, he biggered up his army, but he also made that alliance with Philip V of Macedon, so he had his army as well. And the arms of the south shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, which the chosen people are who? It's the nation of Israel. So when Antiochus came back and took over, we became subjected unto him. Because remember, Jerusalem is here, and Israel is here too. So when he took over this, he took over us. We were subjected unto him as well. Neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. So, nobody was able to fight back against Antiochus when he came, which we know the Lord had it that way for what? For the sake of prophecy. Going back to Daniel chapter 2, verse 21, I believe. Yeah, verse 21. Daniel chapter 2, verse 21. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom. No, let's start at verse 20. Daniel chapter 2, verse 20. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of the Most High forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that knoweth understanding. So the Lord is having it where Antiochus is able to conquer these areas for his will to play out. He set up Antiochus to do these things for prophecy's sake. Jumping back. So now on to verse 16, Daniel chapter 11, verse 16. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will. But he that cometh against him, so this is still dealing with Antiochus III. He did according to his own will by coming against Ptolemy V and conquering, those lands in which nobody could stop him. But he that cometh against him shall do according to his own will, and none shall stand before him, and he shall stand in the glorious land, which is the land of Israel, which by his hand shall be consumed. Because, once again, we became subjects under Antiochus and that Seleucid rule once again after he took over, this area. Beforehand, we were under Ptolemaic rule, but now he's taking over, so we're under Seleucid rule. Verse 17, Daniel 11, verse 17, he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him, thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither before him. Now he shall also set his whole face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom. Once again, this he is Antiochus III, because remember, he's taking over these lands on his way to do what? He's coming to take over Egypt. That was pretty much the main objective, to get Kuwal Syria and take over Egypt. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. Thus shall he do. So it says, and upright ones with him. Who are these upright ones? These upright ones are the Lord's elect of Israel. But really, it's our whole nation of Israel. Because even though now there are wicked people, the Lord created the nation of Israel to be an upright people as a whole. Let's get Exodus chapter 19. We'll start at verse 3. And Moses went up unto the Most High, and the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So, the Lord, he made Israel to be a kingdom of priests, a kingdom of kings, a kingdom of righteousness, a kingdom of holiness, a kingdom of uprightness. Now, Psalms chapter 11. Let's start at verse 1. Psalm chapter 11, verse 1. To the chief musician, a psalm of David. In the Lord put I my trust. How say ye to my Salakia? How say ye to my soul? Flee as a bird to your mountain? For lo, the wicked bend their bow. They make ready their arrow upon the string, that they may privately shoot at the upright in heart. And when these wicked or these devils shoot their arrow at the upright, they target the whole nation of Israel. They don't just target the elect, even though the elect is the main focus. Jumping forward, Psalms 83. Start at verse 1 again. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. So, they're trying to cut off the whole nation. Even though our whole nation aren't moving as an upright people, you have some of us who are trying to get back to our upright ways, the ways of our forefathers, following the laws to the best of our ability. When we get to the kingdom of heaven, our whole nation will be an upright people, because scriptures say the laws will be in our inward parts. We won't be subjected to this flesh anymore, to wickedness. We won't want to do that. We won't be committing the sins. We will be living in righteousness. So back to Daniel 11 and verse 17, right? Thus shall he do. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him, thus shall he do. Right, but also there were Israelites who were a part of Antiochus's army, and a part of the armies of these different kings. For example, you even had Israelite men who joined Alexander the Greek's army. And we can get that example here in the book of Josephus. This is a historical count on when Alexander visited Jerusalem. At first he was coming to pretty much bring destruction, but the Lord, reversed that. Right here. And when he said to the multitude that if any of them would enlist themselves in his army on this condition, that they should continue under the laws of their forefathers and live according to them, he was willing to take them with him. Many were ready to accompany him in his wars. And this is just one of many examples, because you also had, there were times where you had kings or nations who would hire Israel to go to war for them or go to war with them. And when I say there were, Israelites in some of these kings' armies, it doesn't even really mean that they were wicked in a sense. It's just, sometimes that was their lot. You had Israelites whose role was being a warrior. So if they lived in these other areas, they were probably a part of their army, their military. That's just who they were. But continuing, he shall also set his face to enter Salakia. He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and uprightness with him, thus shall he do. And he shall give him the daughter of women. Now this he is Antiochus III, and the hymn that the daughter of women was given to is Ptolemy V, in which the daughter of women is Antiochus III's daughter, Cleopatra the first Syra. So altogether you had Antiochus III. He gave his daughter Cleopatra the first to Ptolemy V. And he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. The reason Antiochus gave Cleopatra to Ptolemy was not only the means of a marriage alliance, but really he wanted to try and control Ptolemy V through his daughter Cleopatra. That's why it says here, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her. But then it says what? But she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. So it didn't go how Antiochus thought it would, because Cleopatra, when they had got married, her and Ptolemy, she really pretty much developed a love for Ptolemy V. So she wasn't doing the bidding of her father. She wasn't playing both sides, and she wasn't having Ptolemy become the puppet that her father wanted him to be through her. She didn't allow that to happen. So now that we've read it, let's go see the history and read about the history on it. But, before that, like we said, Antiochus and the Jews, because once he, conquered these areas, Kawal, Syria, and so forth, we became subject unto him. So now let's read about how he treated us. Antiochus III resettled 2,000 Jewish families from Babylonia into the Hellenistic Anatolian regions of Lydia and Phrygia. Josephus portrays him as friendly towards the Jews of Jerusalem and cognizant of their loyalty to him, in stark contrast to the attitude of his son. In fact, Antiochus III lowered taxes, granted subventions to the temple, and let the Jews live, as Josephus puts it, according to the law of their forefathers. Now, not all the kings that were over us were just flat out devils to us. You had some that were cordial, and as we read Antiochus III the Great, he was one on the more cordial side. As it says, unlike his son, in stark contrast to the attitude of his son, which this son being referred to was Antiochus Epiphanes, or Antiochus the Fourth Epiphanes, because he was a straight up demon. So now jumping to a family, remember, verse 17, Slakia, verse 17, and he shall give him the daughter of women. So Antiochus the third gave Ptolemy the fifth his daughter Cleopatra. Remember that? Antiochus and Laodice had 8 children, 3 sons and 5 daughters. Antiochus, 221 to 193 BC. Antiochus the third, first heir apparent and joint king with his father from 210 to 193 BC. Seleucus the fourth Philopator, 220 to 175 BC. Antiochus the third successor. Now, when we cover more of Daniel 11, this Seleucus the fourth Philopator, he will be brought up. He was that king back during the time of Maccabees, in the book of Maccabees, when you had the high priest Onias and Simon, when they had their falling out, and Simon, he pretty much lied and causing Seleucus to send Heliodorus to the treasury to basically collect some money. That was that Seleucus. But they also had Ardes, a daughter named unknown, betrothed in about 206 BC to Demetrius I of Bactria. Laodice IV married all 3 of her brothers in succession and became queen of the Seleucid Empire through her second and third marriages. Cleopatra I Syra, 204 to 176 BC, married in 193 BC Ptolemy V Epiphanes of Egypt. Antiochus married in 194 BC King Ariarathes IV of Cappadocia. Now, here it says Antiochus and Antiochus. The difference is Antiochus with the I. This is the female version of Antiochus. You know how, say you have the brother's name is Jaden, and then his sister name might be Jade. One's the girl version, one's the boy version. That's what that is. Now, Mithridates, 215 to 164 BC, succeeded his brother Seleucus the fourth Philopator in 175 BC under the regnal name Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. Now we know him as Antiochus Epiphanes, but his real name is Mithridates. But our focus right now is on Cleopatra the first Syra. Cleopatra the first Syra, Cleopatra the Epiphanes Syra, well known as Cleopatra the First or Cleopatra Syra, was a princess of the Seleucid Empire, queen of Ptolemaic Egypt by marriage to Ptolemy V of Egypt from 193 BC, and regent of Egypt during the minority of their son Ptolemy VI, from her husband's death in 180 BC until her own death in 176 BC. She is sometimes viewed as co-ruler to her husband and son. However, evidence is conflicting. Cleopatra I was the daughter of Antiochus III the Great, king of the Seleucid Empire, and Queen Laodice III. So going back to Daniel 11:17, it says, and he shall give him the daughter of women. So Antiochus III gave Ptolemy V his daughter. In 197 BC, Antiochus III had captured a number of cities in Asia Minor, previously under the control of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt. The Romans supported the Egyptian interests when they negotiated with the Seleucid king in Lysimachia in 196 BC. In response, Antiochus III indicated his willingness to make peace with Ptolemy V. So here it is. Antiochus came all the way to Egypt to do what? He shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom. So he was coming, he was coming to Egypt to take it over, which we read about dealing with that Fifth Syrian War. But there was a change of plans. Instead of taking over Egypt, he made an alliance with Ptolemy V. But why? Went to the Syrian Wars, Fifth Syrian War. The death of Ptolemy IV in 204 BC was followed by a bloody conflict over the regency as his heir. Ptolemy V was just a child. The conflict began with the murder of the dead king's wife and sister Arsinoe by the ministers Agathocles and Ctesibius. The fate of Ctesibius is unclear, but Agathocles seems to have held the regency for some time until he was lynched by the volatile Alexandrian mob. The regency was passed from one advisor to another, and the kingdom was in a state of near anarchy. Seeking to take advantage of this turmoil, Antiochus III staged a second invasion of Gaul Syria. He convinced Philip V of Macedon to join the war and conquer the Ptolemies' territories in Asia Minor, actions which led to the Second Macedonian War between Macedon and the Romans. Antiochus quickly swept through the region after a brief setback at Gaza. He delivered a crushing blow to the Ptolemies at the Battle of Panium near the head of the River Jordan, which earned him the important port of Sidon. Now, which Sidon was one of the fenced cities we read about in Daniel 11 and 15. Going back, so the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities. Sidon was one of those cities. Now, he says he convinced Philip V of Macedon to join the war and conquer the Ptolemies' territories in Asia Minor. What was the plan that he laid out to Philip that had Philip be like, oh yeah, okay, bet, yeah, I'm in on this. Now, let's see what was that plan. Back to Antiochus. Start right here. In 205 to 204 BC, the infant Ptolemy V Epiphanes succeeded to the Egyptian throne, and Antiochus is said, notably by Polybius, to have concluded a secret pact with Philip V of Macedon for the partition of the Ptolemaic possessions. Under the terms of this pact, Macedon was to receive the Ptolemaic possessions around the Aegean Sea and Cyrene. So, over here, Aegean Sea and Cyrene, which is over here. While Antiochus would annex Cyprus and Egypt, which Cyprus is here, this island over here, and you have Egypt. But what does the word annex mean? Annex, to attach or add on. Now, Antiochus, he was going to add Cyprus and Egypt to what? To his territory. But he could do that by doing what? Taking it over. He had to conquer it in order to add it to his territory. So that's what he was coming to do. In 200 BC, Roman emissaries came to Philip and Antiochus demanding that they refrain from invading Egypt, because that's what he was coming to do. But why did the Romans care? The Romans would suffer no disruption of the import of grain from Egypt, key to supporting the massive population in Italy. And at this time, they're heavily expanding as well. So if they're heavily expanding, so is their population. So they couldn't afford to let Antiochus take over Egypt and affect their grain import, because it's infecting their food supply, which they need to cater to their growing population. As neither monarch had planned to invade Egypt itself, they willingly complied to Rome's demands. Antiochus completed the subjugation of Gaul Syria in 198 BC and went on to raid Ptolemy's remaining coastal strongholds in Caria and Cilicia. Problems at home led Ptolemy to seek a quick and disadvantageous conclusion. The nativist movement, which began before the war with the Egyptian revolt and expanded with the support of Egyptian priests, created turmoil and sedition throughout the kingdom. Economic troubles led the Ptolemaic government to increase taxation, which in turn fed the nationalist fire. So, there was already a lot of disruption and chaos going on in Egypt that Ptolemy V was dealing with at the time, which is what Antiochus was trying to take advantage of. In order to focus on the home front, Ptolemy signed a conciliatory treaty with Antiochus in 195 BC, leaving the Seleucid king in possession of Kawal, Syria, and agreeing to marry Antiochus' daughter, Cleopatra I, which is what we're reading about here in Daniel 11:17. And he shall give him the daughter of women. That's what that was. He gave his daughter, Cleopatra, to Ptolemy. So, finishing off with Cleopatra. In 197 BC, Antiochus III had captured a number of cities in Asia Minor, previously under the control of Ptolemaic King of Egypt. The Romans supported the Egyptian interests when they negotiated with the Seleucid king in Lysimachia in 196 BC. In response, Antiochus III indicated his willingness to make peace with Ptolemy V and to have his daughter Cleopatra I marry Ptolemy V. They were betrothed in 195 BC, and their marriage took place in 193 BC in Raphia. At that time, Ptolemy V was about 16 years, and Cleopatra I about 10 years old. Later on, Egypt's Ptolemaic kings were to argue that Cleopatra I had received Kawal, Syria as her dowry, and therefore this territory again belonged to Egypt. It is not clear if this was the case. However, in practice, Kawal, Syria remained a Seleucid possession after the Battle of Panium in 198 BC. And since Kawal, Syria remained under control of Seleucid rule, so did we. So did Israel. In Alexandria, Cleopatra I was referred to as the Syrian. As part of the Ptolemaic cult, she was honored with her husband as Theo Epiphanes. In line with the ancient Egyptian tradition of sibling marriage, she was also named sister of Ptolemy V, which is obviously some wickedness, but what do you expect from heathens? A synod of priests held at Memphis in 185 BC granted Cleopatra all the honors that had been given to Ptolemy V in 196 BC, inscribed on the bilingual Greek-Egyptian Rosetta Stone. Cleopatra also held the title of vizier, as one of only two known Ptolemaic queens to did so, the first one being Berenice II of Egypt, which this was done because, Ptolemy V died, and him and Cleopatra's son, Ptolemy VI, was too young to rule, so she pretty much just did in regent in his stead, until he was able to. So, that's pretty much it. Before I go, once more, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And Lord willing, this video was edifying in some way, shape, or form. Shalom.